Hi, and welcome to another episode of Connecting Women Who Break Barriers. I'm your host, Aradhana, and it's my pleasure to have you here. Today, this episode is going to be a little bit honest and a little bit inspiring and hopefully empowering too. So, as you may be aware, as a previous follower, I did take a little bit of a break, but I'm back now with some amazing content just for you. And I look forward to connecting with you outside of this podcast as well, if that's something you're called to do. I took a minute away because I was really struggling with something internally. And as you may or may not know, I'm a mindset coach, a yoga teacher, and also passionate about life. I love living and I enjoy what I do, but I needed to reevaluate why I was doing all the things that I was actually doing because I was having a minute. And when I say I was having a minute, my mental health was actually at a bit of a low. And the reason I want to share that with you is that it's a common thing that a lot of us actually go through. And it's something that no longer needs to be a taboo or something that isn't spoken about. We all have different stories and different journeys that we've been on so far, and I'm sure the journey ahead is going to be similar, where you will have some challenges and you'll have some amazing moments, but it's how we navigate and respond to them that makes us who we are. So, what I was going through was actually a lot of abandonment and rejection. And even though it was rejection from people that I love and are dear in my life, there was actually a lot of self rejection that resulted, a lot of self sabotage, and which really had an impact on my mental health. And yes, it did start off with a conversation that I had with a loved one, which didn't go the way that I expected. But that's life, right? Things don't always go to plan. And what you bravely put out there isn't always how you're feeling. So I needed a minute to really evaluate the conversation that I had and why it impacted me so much. To be honest, it wasn't the first of its kind. I've been rejected many times by the same person throughout my life, but I think because it's that specific person or a group of people who are dear to me, it was just a little bit challenging to ignore. And what it resulted in was a lot of internal dialogue, positive and negative, and the need to really do the healing once and for all. And what I mean by really do the healing, it was to get more honest with myself. Where was I leaning into these triggers? Where was I not actually befriending myself? And where could I do things a little bit differently? My default in the past has been sugar addiction, and addiction's actually something that's very common in my family. So it's something that I want to break the pattern of because I know that it's not serving me and it's not going to serve anyone else that is going through it in future, because it's something that comes from an emotional dysregulation within your body. It comes from an emotional challenge that you haven't come face to face with. So, what did I do during this time away? I really came face to face with my fears. I really came face to face with the conversations and how they actually made me feel. And rather than ignoring them and not taking ownership of them, I did the bold thing and actually accepted what they were. Accepted that they are opinion of someone else. They are not my opinion. They are not my story. And as much as I value others, my story is actually my story. So I get to decide how I respond. And what I needed to do in that time was to take some time out to really focus on my self care. And all I needed was community. And that may sound weird, but I got community in a way that I didn't actually expect. And that was because I was doing a lot of self love and self care work on myself, and it was shining through. Even though I felt a little bit broken on the inside out, whenever someone would meet me, they only had positive things to say, which was actually really empowering. And that's why connecting women who break barriers is a passion project of mine, is something that I'm glad to be back on, but I wanted to come back with the right frame of mind and also to share with you that I'm human just like all of you and that we do have our moments. And also that it's okay to take a break. Everyone that follows you or is inspired by you will be there when you come back. And if they aren't, that's okay too. Whoever needs this message will get this message. And it will then be shared for the other people that also need it. So I think it's really important that as individuals, we take the time to take care of ourselves. And if that means taking a moment out or a month out or whatever period of time you need for yourself, then I encourage you to actually do that, along with getting to know yourself better. When you take the time to get to know yourself better, you get to understand your triggers better, and you get to actually understand who you are from inside out. It really does make a big difference to how you show up for yourself and for others. And I knew that I was at a stage of burnout because I was trying to do too much. So pulling away served me well. I still have a job that I'm working at, which again has different challenges that we all navigate. And I'm sure you've all experienced some of these challenges yourself too. But it comes down to how we respond to everything. And what I learned from this time away was connecting to people that are in my inner circle has been amazing. But also spending that time alone was what I really needed so that I could understand my fears. I could feel the feelings finally rather than suppressing them with food or with any kind of addiction that you may be using to suppress whatever it is that you haven't faced yet. So I encourage you to be bold, to be courageous, and rather than suppressing the feelings that you have, actually be courageous enough to face them and to understand them better. When you start to understand yourself better, you can actually be more linked to the kind of life that you want. You can be more creative in your life and you actually get more opportunities to do things that resonate with what's interesting to you. So during this time, I have been looking at different projects. I've been thinking about how I want to take this podcast further. And I couldn't be more proud of what I've achieved so far. The amazing guests that I've had on here are inspiring women with stories to share. And thankfully, I have quite a few more coming your way. So, connecting women who break barriers, I know also has some male listeners, and the content is for everyone. My intent is for you to have a platform where you can connect yourself and really get to know yourself better, but also have tools that allow you to do that with ease without feeling like you're alone, without feeling like no one has been on the same path that you have, and without feeling like you need to judge yourself anymore or that everything needs to be perfect. I had a conversation with a beautiful lady who asked about what our morning routine was. It was just a story on Instagram. And when I shared a little bit with her and I said, you know, we are all imperfectly perfect, because she also shared that she hasn't been consistent with her morning routine. And that's the thing, like when you're aware of what you're doing, it's okay to pivot and make the change that you want to make. Whereas if you're not aware, then the first thing is to become aware. So if you're not aware of what kind of life you want to lead, you're not aware of where you're letting yourself down because you haven't actually spent time alone to understand those things, and you're being busy with family, friends, career, anything that's taking up your time, I invite you to spend 5 minutes this week to really get to know yourself better, whether it's in the car before you pick up the kids, after dinner while they're asleep, or even when you're finished with work and you're on your commute home, whether you're in a family or not. Take that moment to stop scrolling for 5 minutes and just think about your life so far, not in a critical way, but in terms of what have you enjoyed and what would you like to do going forward? What would you like to explore? Because when we take that time to really get to know ourselves, we actually start the process of healing without even knowing it. When we start to do things that resonate, that we're passionate about, you start to feel a lot more aligned with who you are. And when the going gets tough, that's when also you feel more inclined and motivated to do some of the hard work, which is to face your fears, to be courageous with whatever it is that you've been stopping yourself from dealing with. And also, it gives you an opportunity to start the healing process once and for all if you haven't started that journey yet. And I know that's a big ask, and I know that it does take attention and a bit of dedication, but it's something that I encourage everyone to do. If there's one lesson that I've learned from the time away, it was to no longer suppress my feelings and to feel all the feelings. This notion of only feeling positive and only sharing positive things or positive parts of our life to others because we want to show that everything is fine and we want to feel validated and loved is something that I want to break. I want us to be able to share even the rawness of what we're going through with others without the fear of them no longer wanting to be in our life. And if I'm really honest with you, if they can't be there for the tough moments, then they may not be there for the good moments in the long run either, right? So you want to have a beautiful community around you that's there for you through thick and thin, but don't lean on them so much so that they only see the negative side of you or only the positive side of you. Be a bit of an open book, but be your authentic self. And that's how I want us to connect going forward. Show your rawness, show your realness, and be open to sharing vulnerability with others. Be open to sharing what it is that you've gone through. I was chatting to a friend on the weekend who I've known for 15 plus years, and I shared one of my biggest traumas with her just this weekend. And I didn't realize that I hadn't actually shared it with her. It's not something that I share openly, but it actually allowed her to share something back with me. And we had a very beautiful conversation where we could actually just be there to support each other. So that's where I mean community is really critical. It's really important, but finding the right community comes from knowing who it is that you are and who are the people that you connect with. Again, I've met some amazing women and men over the last few months, and I feel like if you can do things that really align with who you are, whether it's going to a workshop, whether it's going to a volunteering event, and find like-minded people who you can really connect with on a deeper level, you'll have a different experience in life, and you'll also feel like doing the healing work or getting to know yourself better is actually a blessing. It's no longer something that you're shying away from because you don't want to reveal the parts of you that you think are broken. So the Japanese mosaic that everyone is familiar with is actually made of broken pieces, and we all love the outcome. We all love, you know, whether it's a vase or something that we've seen that's been made out of mosaic. Our life is exactly the same, right? We have all had different experiences. We all have had different moments where we've felt broken, but we're not broken as a whole. You might have a scar here or there that you're still holding on to, but in time will be seen as a blessing if you're willing to see it that way. But also, that scar is a part of who you are now, and it's a beautiful part of who you are. So, if you can take the time out to embrace every single part of yourself, if you can take the time out to really love yourself a little bit more, that is my intention for creating this podcast and for really encouraging you to get to know yourself better. As I said, the healing journey is not linear. There are moments when things are going great in our life, and there are moments when we just need to lay low and we need to really feel what we're going through. We need to embrace what we're going through, and we need to accept it as well. So, if you're struggling to let go of some of the pain that you've experienced, I would encourage you to actually sit with it and understand why it's still causing you pain today. Are you doing yourself a disservice by focusing on what happened rather than learning from what happened? Or are you open to now taking the opportunity to learn from what you've actually experienced? So, the fear of rejection and the fear of abandonment was one thing that really made me feel like I was not good enough. That was my narrative for a very, very long time. And I've been doing the work to change that narrative. So, what is that one thing that you want to start doing differently where you're no longer feeling a victim to the past? You're no longer scared to face your fears, and you're no longer worried about what others will think. So, have a think, reflect on, what you've achieved so far, even in this year, and also think about what you want to achieve going forward for yourself. As you think about that goal, what is one step that you could take every single day to slowly help you start to achieve that goal? And how can you love yourself better starting today? They are the key takeaways that I want you to really embrace from this episode, because coming from practical experience, taking that break, loving myself better, really facing my own fears has made me who I am in front of you today. I feel a lot more confident and um, grounded in who I am, and I know exactly who I am now too. And I love that person. I love who I'm becoming, and I love who I've let go of enough to know that that was a lesson for me. So, if you can see all of your life as these different lessons, if you can see your life as a beautiful mosaic piece, then you'll actually start to live a little bit differently. You won't be as jarred or scarred from the previous experiences with the intent of seeing them as a blessing and a lesson. You'll actually start to embrace the ups and downs as exactly what they are, a part of life. Nothing's ever going to stay the same, and we know that we're consistently going to change even if we don't want to, because that is a part of life. But if you're constantly going against the change, where you want to be dealing with the past and you're feeling depressed about it, or you're anxious about the future, I feel you're missing out. I honestly feel like you're missing out on all the blessings that you have available to you today. And if there are certain things that are holding you back from actually moving forward, I invite you to book a free discovery session with me where we can really talk about how your mind can be an ally and a friend to yourself. And we can really talk about why um, embracing any mental health concerns or trauma or anything from the past that is triggering you is actually going to be a blessing, rather than you not wanting to face into any of it at all. Because, as I said, from experience, I've been doing this work for a while, and embracing all parts of me has actually allowed me to feel whole today. And it helped me to feel confident enough to follow my passion and know what it is that I want to do. So now every day I make an effort to do something in line with my passion and in line with self care. And I hope that's something that you do from here going forward. Thank you for your time, and it's great to connect with you again. If you're new, welcome. It's great to have you here. If you're returning, thank you for coming back. And if we haven't connected before, please connect on Instagram or Facebook, and share and like this podcast wherever you're watching. Until next time, take care, lots of love, and remember, you are loved.